A wonderful good day and good afternoon, and welcome to Real Talk, this little program we created some months ago where we talk about the journey tools, the journey method from founder Brandon Bays, and just some really juicy, beautiful topics. And my name is Gaby Burt. I'm International Director for the Journey. I have been with the Journey and Brandon for over 25 years now. So I've witnessed a lot. I've seen a lot. I've met a lot of wonderful, great people on my travels over the last however many years. And one of these people is my guest here today. It's Julie Starr, and we are talking about how to adapt this work into everyday life. And Julie is a business and life coach in real life. So she's not a journey practitioner, but we're dear friends, and we have seen each other many, many times at Brandon's seminars. And so let me welcome Julie. Julie, thank you for being here, for being my guest here on Real Talk, where we just talk about how the journey has impacted you, your life. How do you use whatever the journey is, and what brought you to the journey in the first place? Now, first of all, I need to give you a little bit more of a proper introduction, because you are quite a how should I say this? You've written books. You've written, I don't know, three coaching books, and that's not all that you've written. So you are a best-selling author. Your work is really highly regarded in big companies, organizations, even in government, using your work, your coaching work. So business and life coaching. Talk a little bit about yourself, Julie, because it's better if it comes from you. I think
Sure. So my background is project management, change management, management consultancy, working in large-scale organizational situations of change. So change, the workplace, transitions has always been where I'm used to being, let's say.
Yeah.
In my early career, I realized that I wanted to put together this personal passion that I had for personal development, self-development, what became ultimately a path of self-inquiry or just a path, being a seeker, I guess. I wanted to put that more into being what I did for a job, which is why I came to the coaching world. As you mentioned, I love to write. I've always loved to write. And yes, I've written the coaching manual, the mentoring manual, something called Brilliant Coaching that helps managers and leaders coach as a style of leadership. I also write novels for young adults. So Magic to Memphis was my first one. We're just about to publish a second one, which is called The Truth Keeper. And I would say each one of those books, in the background, the journey has informed my thinking, my ability to distill insight, perhaps wisdom, experience, truth into its purest form. And this kind of speaks to your opening introduction. Like, how do you take this body of experience, this body of training, and make it work? How does it kind of weave itself through the tapestry that's your life? It's kind of, as I look around, I was kind of reflecting before we got on the call. There's not many areas of my life that I can't see some influence of being associated with the journey work for all these years in some way. Absolutely everything. Every decision I make, I guess, even simply because my thinking is often decluttered by the tools. So it isn't that you give me tools on how to make decisions. It's just that I get clearer because I know where to go for my thought, inspiration. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it makes total sense to me. It makes total sense. Yeah, I do the same. But it was just an interesting concept to have you here on this talk, because we've known each other for many, many years, but we got to know each other through the journey. So my first introduction to you was this young lady, usually in the front, constantly raising her arm, always questioning Brandon. And I'm thinking, oh my God.
I know. Because I want to know. And now I understand, having done all the stuff with the ego stuff, now all of that makes sense. But at the time, I didn't understand why this need to know was so visceral with me. It's my ego fixation.
And Brandon's patience was like, oh my God, you know,
Incredible.
there was so much love, so much understanding that even I sometimes in the back thought. But anyway, you must have done the full practitioners program at least twice over, done all of the done all the advanced retreats with us, have come to India with us, and it's kind of over time we got to know each other, and now we're friends, and it's what we have been friends for quite a few years and spent some beautiful times together, holidays together. So it's just an absolute joy and pleasure to have somebody like you, because one of the things that I wanted to highlight also is that the program that you've taken, the first one, it's more, even for myself, it's more like a personal transformation program. But it's somehow got the name from about 23 years ago when it got started as the Journey Practitioners program. So this was a program that was on offer for people who wanted to become Journey practitioners. But then we realized exactly. So there is about 50, it's almost like 50-50, you know, half of the people want to come, they want to do the practitioners program, but because we've used the name for so many years, it's almost like I talked to somebody the other day and it's almost become its own brand. And it's not, because it's a program that is, you said so beautifully, it's almost like a paradigm for living life, you know, and a personal transformation program. So what kind of things can happen that you summed it up so beautifully, but maybe you have a few examples. I mean, you know, the day-to-day stress. How did you do through COVID, for goodness sake? You know, I mean, there's a great one.
So one of the things that I meant to mention to you before I came to the journey, I was always a seeker. So by then I was a master practitioner of NLP. I'd done most of the curriculum here and in the US with people like ISA, the Institute of Self-Actualization. I'd done stuff with Byron Katie. I'd done stuff with Landmark Forum in London, like most of their curriculum. So, reading, listening, I was always, since being a kind of mixed up teenager, I was always wanting to inquire what makes us happy, successful, and fulfilled, resting on the fact that I felt frustrated, and I felt like there was more, and I felt like I needed a sense of direction, and how do I, I'm kind of looking around and like, I want that one, I want a great life. And so I came to the journey as that, like, oh, well, I'll go on this because it was interesting to me. I'd been on a health retreat in Wales, met one of your practitioners. She'd done this what to me was very strange. Her name was Grace. That was the funny thing. She, did this process. I thought this was unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. I'd done some Ericksonian language patterns and studied hypnosis and things, but I could kind of see elements of NLP, perhaps language pattern, but actually the paradigm shift, and it really is, as a coach, it's a complete U-turn, is that where coaching, because I've done the whole Tony Robbins thing, walk over hot coals, that whole kind of if you're unhappy, how do you want to feel instead? Get yourself a vision, start to do affirmations, start to tell yourself that you're powerful and successful and happy and all that stuff. The contradiction, obviously, that you get immersed in with Janaki's, Brandon's work, is that instead of trying to move away from the pain and away from the suffering, away from the discomfort, to sit with it, to be with it. And that was what was, I'll use the word shocking, because for me as a coach, as a generative coach, which is, if you're not happy there, let's find a way of getting you to somewhere else. Ignoring all the rich story and the kind of jewelry box that gets opened through the pain and the suffering, if you like, ignoring all of that and just, kind of, okay, close the box on that. Let's just have you try and feel something else. It was shocking to me. And I remember being sat there thinking, am I hearing what I'm hearing? That she actually wants me to go into the emotion, go into the negativity or the discomfort of it, and then hold my head down in it and stay with it. That was the game changer for me, because it was completely contradictory, and yet ultimately the access to liberation, if you like, the access to freedom. Who would have ever thought that freedom was within the discomfort? Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it becomes so practical in everyday life, because how much we are conditioned to avoid that. Avoid it by eating something, avoiding it by switching on Netflix, avoiding it by getting your phone out and scrolling through something, avoiding it by not calling somebody, not making the decision, not sitting, and just to have this conditioning. And it kind of is, because it's with me so present in every day. I have this conditioning now to think, hang on, I'm not comfortable about that. What is it about that's taking me into? Let me sit with this. It's, to me, like I said, it's a game changer.
Beautiful. I think you've done a lot more preliminary work before you came to the journey than me. I kind of fell into the journey through good fortune, I think, and it was even just the first weekend, the journey intensive, and it was like, oh my God, I had no idea. I really, really had no idea, and that was it for me. It was like the practitioner program didn't even exist at that point. That was back in 1996, and so the practitioner program started when Brandon wrote the book, The Journey, which was published in 99. And then, with her traveling the world, it was, we said, well, how can we teach people to work like you? And so this is kind of where it came from. But yeah, so
you're reminding me of something else that's very different about this work, is you send people inward, whereas I've been trained to look outside for what's wrong. Like, have I got enough money? Do I have the car I want? Do I have the house I want? Do I have the relationship I want? It's all external, isn't it? So I don't live where I want to live, by a beach. I want to live by the water. And it's all externalized indicators of happiness. And then, of course, me being work hard, committed, driven, started to acquire all those things of, the nice house, the nice car, the successful business. But then realizing, hang on,
this still something
working. This isn't working. This was the formula. It's not working. So again, to send me inward, into the stillness, which is different than silence, isn't it? It's like access stillness, and there lies the answer. It's huge. It's massively different, this work, and it's not. So there are lots of other works that now start to complement it, but it's been so ahead of its time for such a long time to deal with the body in the way of the information. It's huge.
So Julie, how has Brandon's work kind of flowed into your work, into your coaching? I know you're not kind of coaching the journey, but how is it influencing how you work with your clients?
So as you say, I don't practice as a practitioner.
No.
I have been through your program so many times. It's ridiculous and really refreshing, because everything's different. So even to sit on an intensive weekend as a trainer is a fantastic. It's because everything's always different. So there is a freshness in the work that's really inspiring. As I look at either the exec coaching work I do, so I go into large organizations and coach these really senior individuals, and it informs those sessions very directly. most obviously, it gave me confidence. And confidence is a strange word because it means lots of different things to lots of different people. But this alignment, this sense of alignment that you get from having done so much clearing work with the journey and so much kind of throwing off of fixated behavior and these egoic notions. The ego work has been the most powerful for me. Yeah. And that's why I've sat so much of the ego work and would still, and come to India and all of that, because it's so powerful and so practical. Using this ancient model of the Enneagram that Brandon and Kevin both use, and starting to understand both the power of that Enneagram model and in terms of its ancient thinking and just archetypal drivers and things that sit within it, but also realizing, having, as I would do, go off in other directions and look at how other people teach the Enneagram, understanding what an absolute master both Janaki, Brandon, and Kevin are at that material. So sorry, I got sidetracked. That, doing all of that clearing work, understanding my egoic fixation, being able to let go of kind of, I'll say neurosis, and not neurosis, but this kind of mindiness that I always had running in coaching sessions, or this mindiness I had around figuring out situations, or tendency towards over-analysis, being able to calm and soothe that, and understanding the ways to do that, it made me much more competent as a coach, because I went into a session assured by that, buoyed by that, having this firm foundation of being embodied in this aligned sense of myself in a situation. So it meant that on a more practical level, it doesn't matter how big or scary somebody is in an organization, what they do for a living, how many millions of pounds they earn, and literally that's the level of individuals that I frequently deal with. I have the tools to still myself and be with myself and create the context for a really amazing conversation, because I'm confident to come from nothing. So I haven't got this what I perhaps used to do in business, which is over effort, work too hard, try to appear smart and clever, perhaps over professionalize my language, or all of those things that are just fixated behaviors from fear, kind of winning strategies or formulas you learned to employ in situations, where just doing all of this clearing work to just let it go. So you get, again, it's a paradigm shift of, instead of the old coaching model, it is, rub yourself out and draw yourself again into a better version of yourself. The journey shows you just how to let it all go and show up. And it's an overused word, but just show up authentically, and that's powerful. And what I noticed is, and I've noticed over the years, lots of amazing things have happened almost without me noticing that they're happening. But what I noticed was the level of conversation I could access with an individual was much deeper, because I had a stronger sense of myself. I had a stronger access to sensing them in the situation. The Enneagram information is so powerful in helping you attune to an individual and empathize and relate to their world, and access very quickly a shared sense, a shared understanding, because you can acknowledge what might be going on with them. You can acknowledge where they might be concerned, or what they might be struggling with, because it's kind of there, without the Enneagram isn't a prescription for anything, but it's certainly an access to information about how we operate and what makes us tick. And so an ability to read people, an ability, in a really compassionate way, and an ability to intuit where they might need support. Super, super powerful.
It's amazing. I love hearing what you say, Julie, because it makes absolute total sense to me, because this is kind of my everyday life, yes. And I don't work with big organizations, but it's in everyday life. It's in my relationship. It's in my colleagues. It's my interactions with day-to-day people or organizations. I have one of the things that is one of the beautiful gifts that the journey brought in my life, was kind of introducing the journey into so many countries, be the forerunner, jump on a flight and go to Germany, meet the people in Germany, and
Yes.
kind of, I do the front wave, and then Brandon and the seminars follow behind, and I did that in so many countries. And it's when the authentic you shows up, when there is no need of anything, when it's just like, this is you just show up as who you are, you speak from that. People get that, and sometimes it's to hear it from you makes it so clear. And what you bring to organizations must be that must be a true gift. So
yeah, I love it. And I also run a business, so I have a small training team. We train managers and leaders how to use better conversational language and these kind of coaching skills as a style of management. And we're all using it within the team. So members of my team have gone on journey events. David's gone on, did the No Ego many years ago in Zollenruda, and it gives us a language where you're working with people that have done it, that have experienced journey processes. It gives us a shared language and principles to operate from, that again engenders surety, trust, just a nice way of relating to each other, and just compassion. That the Enneagram for me, the bigger, as well as informing me about other people, I think the real gift in it that took me a while to get, because I was so obsessed with myself and my own fixations, was just this incredible compassion, that when you understand the pain that people come from and the masks, the social masks and conventions we use to hide that, it's super powerful. And also learning how to come at people with heart rather than head, because as a mind type, I'll try and outthink somebody or outspeak somebody or figure something out, somebody, problem solve. And just to sit and rest and think, hang on, no, this person just needs listening to. That's all. Let's just be with and care and demonstrate care and trust.
Wow. Sounds wonderful.
Super powerful.
I know. I wish the whole world would function like this. How wonderful would it be? What kind of things trigger you, Julie? I mean, I started off a little bit too early, obviously, and just say, how did you get through COVID? What kind of, how did that impact you? Because I mean, obviously we couldn't travel very far. We had to switch from one day to the next online, which is something that I'm sure you probably used before COVID quite on a regular basis anyway.
We use it a lot more now.
Yeah.
But that again was interesting, wasn't it? Because I remember keeping in touch with you guys, and we were both going through a similar thing, which was, hang on, a tsunami has just come in and wiped the world of work as we knew it, like just washed it away. Now what are you going to do? And of course, if I had been 25, 35, I would have been panicking an awful lot more than I was. Instead, I forget who I was journey processing. We were all journey processing. It was, you kind of go back to the tools, don't you? So go back to the meditation. Brandon got me meditating properly, regularly. I'd always been interested in and kind of dabbled with it. But, in terms of having those touchstones and those tools to clear out the fear that was coming up, the insecurity that was coming up, and see the possibility in it. My business completely changed. We did go online. We built this wonderful online learning portal called Starr, which has taken us into a domain where we can now deliver the training, the coach training that we do online. We kind of reinvent, like a bit like you guys. We reinvented ourselves. We kind of got resourceful. This is the ultimate thing that and this is from the world of NLP. I learned this word resourcefulness and resilience, perhaps, this ability to respond. But this is what these tools give you, because they help you to go into the fear, into the anxiety. Don't chase it away with alcohol or food or cigarettes or whatever your crutch is. but it has you go back into it and think, okay, this COVID pandemic lockdown, all my clients were cancelling every single piece of work apart from some online coaching work. You know, rather than go into follow that rabbit down that hole and end up, you know, in a neurotic damp heap, had you wind back and think, okay, have a look, what's coming up? You know, there's just this phrase, what's coming up, and having friends that, you know, a lot of my best friends are from the world of the journey. You know, the friendships that you form on these weekends because of these, you know, incredible shared experiences that you have. You don't have those kind of conversations with people. You don't take off all those social masks quite as quick. I've got people that I've known for 20 years or 30, 40 years. You know, they've never seen me like journey people have seen me and had those conversations. So we're all having those conversations. We've got this vernacular, which is what's coming up for you. Well, this is coming up. It's like, yeah, that's really, so you have a language that is supportive of each other, and you can laugh, and, you know, when somebody's feeling amazing and full of somebody else isn't, and that's great as well. But it was really good. And, you know, meditation is such a mainstay for me by now. Meditation got me through COVID, as well as journey process and journey friends, and having and watching the possibility that was arriving. But I don't think I would have been able to engender that sense of possibility had it not have been being in this work for so many years. I do sound a bit of a zealot by now. Other modalities are available.
Well, listening to you, what I'm remembering with when this whole thing erupted or our businesses got washed away, there is also something that I've learned through Brandon, and something that never came to me naturally, but a level of trust, because there is something where things are really not in our hands anymore, as much as we would like to think that it is, as much as we would like to think that we have things in control or in hand. And then something happens when you realize, hold on a minute, this has got nothing to do with me. And, you know, I'm here, I'm sitting, as you know, I'm sitting here in Greece at the moment, you know, and a few years before COVID, not knowing what might happen or what could happen, Cliff and I, my husband and I, we bought a holiday home. You know, it was meant to be our base for the summer months. We love coming to Greece. We've been coming here since 2008. And then when COVID started, I was with Brandon in India, and my husband was
there.
Yeah, you were with us.
We did down.
Yeah, everything. And then, so I was with Brandon and my husband was with Kevin. They were in Australia. And somehow before the big lockdown happened, which I think here in Greece was about the 14th of March, 2020, like 1 or 2 days before, the four of us all arrived here in Greece. We just made it. And we didn't know, you know, we didn't know that we just made it. The consequences of that kind of happened. But we needed to be together in order to create the online presence, the online programs. And literally within 3 months of that time, we were ready to, you know, reconstruct the Journey Intensive as the first seminar going out online. And it was like, wow, how did that happen? You know? And so, and it's like, sometimes you just got to say, sometimes we can stand in our own way, and there was nothing anyone could do. And for me, that particular time, I had to laugh because I was always listening to people saying how much time they had, and they were at home and the kids were at home. Everybody was at home and didn't know what to do. And it was, I'd never been so busy all my life, you know. It's just like, it was probably one of the busiest periods that I remember, you know. And the triggers that happened, we too, you know, we too used our, you know, we too use process work to make sure that whatever showed up, I think everybody needed it. And I think we came through it in a beautiful, open, transparent way. offering support to people for the first 3 months, everything for free. And then we started to, offer the programs online, and I always thought, and then I thought, well, we'll be back to normal in autumn. And Kevin, Brandon's husband, said, I don't think so. He was always the one who said, I don't think so. I think we're going to be here for a while. And little did any of us know, So in a way, I'm grateful, because I think transferring to much of what we do online has created a big shift for us, and I believe for you too.
It has. It's taken a huge layer of stress out, and I know that you guys were kind of had this follow the sun principle around, year to year, which was where you were really circumambulating the globe, which from a distance looked punishing. And
it was.
Yeah. And it's wonderful to hear that you're doing something over in Greece this year, because obviously then let the journey come to you rather than you kind of chasing the sun. Stay where the sun is.
Yes, exactly. It was great, because we finished when COVID happened, where you were with us in India. That was a retreat called Advanced No Ego, and it was the final day of it happened, and I remember it so well. It was full moon, and full moon over the mountain. There is a mountain there which is kind of a holy mountain, and the full moon was rising. It was magical, but it almost felt like it was the end of something and the beginning of something, and it really was, But now this is our first international life and residential retreat, and it's the same program. It's Advanced No Ego, but we're doing it in Greece. So so there's been a 3-year gap,
No, and I hear nothing but good things about the online. I don't do the online because I spend my life online, so I sometimes catch up on some of the satsangs and things. But I hear it's super powerful online, and the same with our training. It is incredible what an intimate experience gets created, in the shared rooms and the pair shares, things like that, and the practice sessions.
It is, and I'm also aware of how much strain the permanent travel schedule was on all of us. And I think we've been, we're primarily on one time zone. We don't have to shift from here to Australia, from here to America, from here to Central Europe, UK time, 1 hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, 7 hours, whatever hours. And it's almost like you get so used to it, but you don't realize what a strain it is on the physical form, on the body. And also for Brandon to do all the teaching side of it, and then travel, so as as she kept saying, she's like 44 out of 52 years she's every week in a different place, and that's true, and the same was true for us too, for many of us. And it's like, how did we do that? So we're talking, for those of you who are listening to this program who are new to the journey or to Brandon Base, the entry-level program, which we all do, and which is the very first step into Brandon's work, is the Journey Intensive, which is now solely available online. And I hear so many times now, I could have only done it online. I couldn't have done it because I couldn't have traveled. We make it so much more price effective, as well, accessible for everyone. And that's been our intention for so many years, to allow people to experience this work in the most efficient way. And we obviously, being online, we said, okay, what else can we do? So last year, especially with all of the other issues that we then experienced, with energy prices going up and this going up and problems here and problems there, we kind of the price. We do a 70% discount off the Journey Intensive. So give people the opportunity at least to dip their toe in and try it out. And then if you like it, if you love it, if you want to do more, you can do more. But it's such a beautiful work. So I'm sure my colleague is going to post the link. If you're interested, we do it on all the time zones, on the American time zone, Australian, Central European time zone, in various languages. So there is absolutely no excuse for people not to do it. And it's at a price level. If we can go through stressful periods and times like this and have a tool that kind of brings us back home, and as you so beautifully said at the beginning, that we're not looking on the outside, because with COVID, if you look on the outside, nothing would have made sense, But if we look inside, and if we address the fears, that the uncertainties, the insecurities, the anger, the rage, being controlled, the, oh my God, what's going to happen next? All of that, addressing it and recognizing and realizing that these are just mind games, and that we can always come back.
Can I just say also that, because I'm aware that people found many paths to this work, and some of it is ill health, some of it is mental ill health, some of it's clinical depression, some of it's neuro, whatever it might be. I came to it because I wanted to be more successful and make more money and be able to be a successful published author. I had this kind of duvet pulled off everything I thought I wanted. So it's just super interesting, because I remember I was in a very large event in London in one of the big conference halls, hundreds of people there. And I remember not liking Janaki very much, not kind of warming to this glossy, beautiful American with,
Blonde
this
American.
And I kind of sat, I think, with a frown on for a day and a half. And because it wasn't what I thought I wanted, it wasn't what I was expecting, it wasn't what I thought I wanted, I sort of didn't believe her, because I was suspicious, suspicious minds. It's like, I'm suspicious. Now I'm suspicious. This woman cannot be so wonderful. This woman cannot. And then I think it was one point on the last day, I realized, oh, hang on, it's me. She's actually true. She does care. She really does care. And that's always, for a mind type like me that kind of lives in the realm of mind, to have somebody that is so heart-centered and so open and such a speaker of truth and it's being unadulterated, but that wasn't what I wanted. So I just, for anybody that's listening, sometimes if you have a strong reaction against this, just question which part of that strong reaction is yours. Because when I started to realize how much of my strong aversion to this information was mine, then I was really in trouble, because I realized, oh, flip, what if I've got this wrong? What if I've spent 10 years, no longer, 15 years in self-development? What if she's not wrong, but I'm wrong? And they're, they talk about the truth sets you free. That became the opener. So I wasn't consciously angry. I didn't have, depression, although when I started to recognize I did have a layer of depression, but it was more shut down than depression. I was just more kind of emotionally shut off. So wasn't that I was unhappy, but it was also when I started to recognize I wasn't very happy either. I was just kind of in this dead zone. So I was in this kind of gray zone of, my life's great. Like digitally, my life's lovely. I earn good money. I'm quite successful. I've got this lovely business. Everything's okay, isn't it? But I was still in this kind of everything's okay zone, but something's not quite right. So yes, absolutely. I kind of, wherever you come from, I would say stay with it, because there's something for everybody here. That the Enneagram proved that for me.
Yeah, it's interesting, Julie, because we actually, in a way, quite similar. I think we came to the journey for different reasons, but where I was before I came to the journey sounds pretty similar to you.
Yeah.
And I wasn't.
You had a business.
I had a business,
Yeah.
financially, no, you know,
Yeah.
everything was hunky-dory,
Yeah.
everything was perfect, in a good relationship. So I thought everything was okay. And I just set out to do something different. So I
Yeah.
wasn't
Me
even
too.
sure what I wanted to do. So I just kind of, I went from being a businesswoman into studying homeopathy because I just wanted to do something a
Do
little bit
something
more
different.
worthwhile.
Yeah.
But oh, goodness gracious! I mean, when I started, I came to the journey because I was already finished as a homeopath, and I wanted another modality to help clients I was
Yeah.
working with. But it was that really taught me and showed me how much I need to look at myself first. And that was really
Yes.
on the first weekend. And I say that with the greatest respect because I really didn't know. I really didn't know.
Yeah.
And I could, if I look back today, I would have never, ever heard it from anyone. But I actually was depressed. And it was one of my biggest fears because I grew up in a family, our mum was depressed from the word go. So
Yeah.
we've had depression in the
Yeah.
house, in the home, and I did absolutely everything to make sure I don't go there. And
Yes.
but I was looking for happiness, for fulfillment, for joy, for in the external world. I didn't know how to address the inside because the inside was numb, was dead, and I
Yeah.
don't know where it would have taken me health wise, if I hadn't started looking inside
Yeah.
for some real, and it happened so quick, you know. The work never ends because you never land anywhere, but the
Yeah.
realization that all the answers are actually inside, you know, that
Yeah.
there's something that I wrote in our description, or we wrote, and it's like the drive, then there is a drive for personal development, the drive for wanting to know more, and yet Brandon stops the search. That's what happened
Yes.
for me on the very, very first weekend. It's like I knew, because there was actually, I went to a Mind Body Spirit festival in London, and it almost like I went there in hiding. I didn't know any people in that field. And it's kind of, I didn't even want to tell anybody that I was going there. And and what I did realize is that I knew nothing. You know, I was
Yeah.
so green, and I wanted to go to every talk that there was. I wanted to read every book, and I just
Yes.
wanted to know more.
Yeah.
What
It's
can I
focused.
do to better myself, to be a better version of myself? And it was that and then within a few months, I landed at a journey intensive with Brandon. And it was at that very, very first weekend, I literally came home and I realized that all the answers are to be found inside. I don't need to read 1,000 books. It's
Yes.
authenticity.
Yes.
Home is here, and then you can kind of start to
Yes.
clear out some of the wounds and pains that we've carried for so many years, and life just gets easier. My life has just become a lot simpler over the last
Yes.
25 years. I think
You
that's
have
one
a
of the
lovely life. You have a lovely life. And that's what's been great about getting to know you guys personally, is seeing the authenticity that sits on the other side of this, and how you do use the work every single day, and you do practice what you preach, and that becomes a form of teaching for me. Certainly, hanging around with you guys and Brandon, is there's nothing like it really, for like life in your face, and here's how you can live your life by a
yeah.
different agenda. Certainly, yeah. No, I mean, that's a privileged position that I'm in, because not many people get to see that. But yeah,
That's
and I guess it's tough as well, because there's no escaping truth. You can't go into the old story and the old patterns, and let's bitch about this, and let's moan about this, and let's complain
no,
about this, because that I don't see that happening. I don't see that
no.
happening.
There's
It's not.
nobody listening.
Wouldn't it be lovely just occasionally to blame somebody else for what's going on?
Nobody listening, you know. It's nobody listening, and I think it's it's at the end of the day, it's funny enough, even the people in your life that kind of thrive on gossip or stuff like that, somehow these people start falling away, whether
Falling away.
you don't need to do anything. It kind of, it's almost like truth paves its own way. And then we're surrounded with people who are in this, you know, and it's a beautiful way of living, of honoring, of being grateful, enjoying life. And it's you know, if this is abundance, then all I can, for myself, what I can say is I live abundantly. And it's not necessarily to do with millions of money in any currency. It's about having a rich life. A rich life, good friendships, and just, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's a wonderful community that you created. Incredible, incredible.
Thank you. That's lovely for you to say that, Julie. And I know we've mentioned the Practitioners program a few times here, which is something that I think I go through a whole cycle every year. I have the huge privilege nowadays to actually co-host these events with Brandon. So the No Ego Retreat, the Life Transformation Week, all of that. And it's not necessarily for anyone to become a journey practitioner. Of course, if this is something you want to do and you want to use this work on other people, yes, that's the practitioner program. But it's, to me, I was trying to think of the right word, but it's really a catapult into living life fully, you know, living life fully, authentically. You know, and I'm not saying I'm happy every day. You know, there's something that happens and that upsets me, and then I'm upset. You know, that's okay too.
Yes,
you know,
and I've seen that. It's great to witness, because it's there and then it's gone.
We can, you know, we're allowed to show up as whatever. You know.
Yeah.
And
I think what I would love people to appreciate, because it's a strange thing to, I understand why it's called the Practitioner program. I think, and I know some really powerful practitioners that have come out of your program, and I know life coaches that simply make a living not doing really much what I would call coaching, but doing journey processes for people, and you know, and branding that coaching. So I know that you do have some practitioners that simply operate as and make their living as practitioners. I also know, and I think this is maybe useful for people to acknowledge, is there are people that are already perhaps in the healing profession or doing one-to-one work like myself, where when you learn the tools of the journey, like it, you know, when you start to understand the different elements that comprise a practitioner's kit bag, let's say, when you understand all the tools in a practitioner's kit bag, you realize how versatile they actually are for doing some kind of one-to-one work. So whether it's the counselors, the massage therapist, the aromatherapist, the homeopathy, the sacrocranial, doesn't matter what work you're doing, this work, like it informs my coaching conversations, no doubt. It informs and strengthens and enriches what you're doing, because you're doing clearing work for yourself, which makes you show up cleaner. You know, you kind of get yourself out of the way. And also it will give you these bites. So it's a little bit like NLP. It gives you these bite-sized things that you can just start to do a bit of a, you know, just the resources balloons. I know it's a really simple thing that you do at the start of a journey process, to say to somebody, you know, what resources do you need? Sometimes I'll just, you know, if someone's anxious about a conversation they've got to have in the workplace, I might just take somebody into a little resource thing. And then it's like a nip and tuck. Somebody doesn't even realize, know what you've done. It seems like you just made something up. Or just a parts, and, you know, take someone to a campfire, have a little bit of a conversation about this, you know, but kind of like transactional analysis element of it. It's just so versatile. And then you've got people like me that just want to be more, you know, happy, successful, fulfilled in whatever that means to me. So I don't know what to say. We'll never invent a term, an appropriate term, but just it is what it is. Let people be drawn to it. Yeah,
exactly. Well, I think we've said it all in whichever way from the both of us. So all I can say to you, Julie, thank you so much for joining me here today, and also for sharing your experience, because that's what it's all about, to find a way to let other people know, because this is just something else, another way to share what it is we do, or what the journey is, or what
Yeah,
Brandon's work is all about, in a different format, And so for that, I'm really, really thankful. And it's
thank you,
been a true
Graham.
privilege, Julie, first of all, to have you in my life, to have you as a friend, but also very much for being here with me today on this lovely little Real Talk program. So I hope for those of you who listened that this was useful. Please share it with your friends if you feel that there is something in here that somebody else might find useful. Share it along. It's on Facebook, it's on YouTube, so the recordings will stay up. Just share the good word around. That's I would be
Wonderful.
grateful for that. We all will be grateful for that. So thank you with all my heart for joining us. Thank you, Julie, for
Thank
being
you.
here with me today. Thank you. And I'll be back with another program in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.